Hey there. Sitting here on a Sunday afternoon, doing a little bit of work, catching up on some files, getting ready for some football, and something's been bugging me that happened this week. And I think it's a really good example to answer a lot of the most commonly asked questions surrounding estate planning, specifically the ones that are like, how much of an advantage is it to avoid probate? How much should we really want to avoid probate? Other questions that are like, do I need a trust or is a will enough? And I had a situation this week where I met with a couple of kids whose father just passed away. Their mother passed away a year ago, and then their father passed away recently. And there were no estate planning documents. So as a result of this, it provides almost a case study as to why estate planning is so important, and more importantly, the advantages of a trust and how a trust can avoid a whole lot of aggravation. In this situation, the dad had nothing, no plans, no will, no trust, no beneficiary designations because everything named his wife, but she predeceased him. So there were no beneficiaries on any financial assets. Now, a lot of people don't realize whether you do your own will or not, Michigan has a will for you. So for this sake, we can rely on the fact that Michigan's got a will. The problem is that all of this family's assets, so there is a primary residence, there is an up north cottage, like a lot of people in Michigan. There are vehicles, there are boats, there's a whole bunch of personal property, home contents, furniture, furnishings, tools, equipment, things like that. There are a ton of financial assets. There's 401k, IRA, there's life insurance. And then there are the normal bank accounts, saving, checkings. I believe there were a couple of CDs and some other stock or investment accounts. There was no business in this case, but there could easily have been a business. And there were no documents providing for planning. So in a nutshell, everything is going to have to go through probate. Whether you have a will or you rely on the will that Michigan has for you, you're going through probate. That is the biggest difference between planning with a trust and planning with a will or relying on a will. A will requires probate. So now in this particular situation, the process is going to take a minimum of 6, 7, 8 months, and everything's going to have to go through probate. So the home, the up north cottage, all the financial assets, all the personal property, everything is going to be under the supervision of and exposed to complete public access of everything during the probate process. Not to mention the fact they're going to have to publish for creditors for 4 months, which is basically taking out an advertisement that says, I've died, here's everything I own, do I owe anybody any money? Now, if that were the only reason not to probate an estate, that would be enough. But the fact that it's all public, it's all open to all kinds of marketing that they're going to get for sure, probably for the rest of their life. You get on mailing lists, you're not getting off of them. Here's the biggest impact though also. There are going to be all kinds of filing fees, taxes that they call inventory fees. There are going to be certification fees, publication fees, transfer fees, all kinds of monetary expenditures that are subject to this probating of this estate plan just to get all of these assets to the 3 kids, which they should naturally go anyways. Here's the other thing. All of it could have been avoided. Their total expense is probably going to be north of $10,000 by the time they're done. It's going to take minimum of 6, 7, 8 months, possibly longer, and that's without any issues and if there are no creditor claims. Now, this is in contrast to had dad set up a trust and had it been properly funded, the home, the up north cottage, all the financial assets, everything going into the trust effective upon his passing, there would be no probate. All of those expenses would be avoided. All of those taxes would be avoided. All of those fees, filing fees, publication fees, creditors' claims, all of it would have been avoided. And it probably would have cost 1/4 to 1/5 if he were a single individual setting up this type of an estate plan comprehensively. Powers of attorney, trust documents, ladybird deeds, proper funding documents, that he might be looking at $2,500 to $3,500, literally 1/4 to 1/5 of the expense that they're now going to undertake. And here's the other thing. Liquidation of the estate would have been much quicker. Instead of it being a 7-8 month process, with a trust, your successor trustee immediately steps in and has the authority to undertake to do whatever needs to be done. Secure the assets, access the bank accounts, pay the bills, transfer any assets. There is no delay. There are no restrictions. There are no limitations. It is immediate. They have the authority, they have access, and they have the ability to follow the instructions that are set forth in the trust. This is a stark contrast to what a lot of people simply don't know. And all of this really begins with just getting the right information. When you ask the right questions of the right people, you're going to get the right answers. And I really believe that back in the day, it was hard to find the right information. Today, there's so much information, it's hard to find the right information. What matters to me? What do I need? What does my family need? And that's why here at Abraham Law, that's exactly what we do. We just answer questions. We provide information, and not broad, general, generic information. We learn enough about you and your situation to be able to specifically answer the questions that you have, provide a strategy that you need that would be more towards the total control and avoidance of expenses than the ridiculous, inefficient incurrence of expenses, the duration of a long, protracted public probate court hearing, and getting everything kept within the family, kept private, and done very efficiently and inexpensively. Don't wait. Pick up the phone, call, get the questions answered that you need so you can make the right decisions. That's what we do here. Call us today.